Excellent. Great. So welcome to the Hero's Journey workshop. I've run this with a couple of mentees, sort of 2-3 mentors, and they found it quite useful. It'd be a nice thing as we're looking slightly towards the long term. This week, I think this will be very valuable, I hope, for everyone here. So how we're going to structure this is I'm just going to do a quick sort of 10-15 minute presentation on like, what is this? What are we talking about? Why is it useful? And how we can actually apply it. And what we're then going to do is go into breakout rooms. So I'm going to put groups of 3 together. And ultimately what we're going to be doing is just writing a rough version of our own hero's journey and then pitching it to each other for feedback. Cool. Let's jump right into it. So I'm going to be I'm just going to mute Richard. Sorry, I think there's some background noise. Cool. Okay, excellent. Let's jump into it. Great. So let's talk about the hero's journey. So what is the hero's journey? Essentially, what we are trying to do before we get to that, the outcome essentially of this workshop is to help you improve how you pitch yourself. That could be in an interview, in your CV, how you network, how you present yourself to a date, for example, right? By crafting a really compelling personal story that you can reuse, you can repeat, and just have in your bank for any kind of interaction like this. So what we're going to cover in this short presentation is firstly, what is a hero's journey? Why it's important to your career and also your sort of personal development as well. And finally, we're going to jump into how we actually craft your own hero's journey and then do that in practice after the presentation. So what is a hero's journey? Hero's journey is something when you hear about it, you will see it in every film you watch, every book you have read. So think Frodo in Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. So ultimately it is this cycle where somebody is called to adventure. They cross the threshold into adventure. They come across all sorts of problems. Usually 20 minutes towards the end of the film, they run into this abyss where everything looks like the world's about to end. And then they go through some sort of transformation. They overcome whatever obstacle they've been facing. And then at the end, they go back as this sort of transformed, enlightened person to pass on the lessons from this experience to other people. Right. So first example I'm going to give is Siddhartha. So this is essentially the person that became Buddha. So Siddhartha was a wealthy prince, 5th century India, sitting there with loads of money, loads of status, didn't quite feel, that this was what life was really about. So he left his palace, went off to explore the world, spoke to 5 teachers. None of them had the answers about what really life was about. So he's going through this struggle, this abyss. Ended up sitting under a tree. I can't remember for how long, a couple of months maybe, undisclosed, whatever. And eventually came to the conclusion that life is about suffering, but it's about how we sort of relate to ourselves and ultimately how we can help other people. And that's sort of the key to life. And that was the moment of enlightenment. So the moment of that transformation, of overcoming that obstacle. More modern example, Harry Potter, right, at the beginning, called to adventure from a very ordinary life living under the staircase. Throughout all those films, goes through all these ups and downs. At the end, looks like he's dead, looks like, game's up, finally, 7 films later. But what does he do? He comes out the other end, happy, eventually has kids, etc., etc. Right, my attempt to swag Harry Potter there. Right, same thing, Lord of the Rings, exactly the same story. Why am I telling you all of this? Why is this in any way relevant? Well, if you want people, let's use the example of an interview. If you want people to buy into you as a person, right? So you as Daniel, you as Kozua, you as Felix, right? People need to empathize with you and beyond that, be part of your journey. Right? They want to be part of your journey, going on that journey with you. That makes them care. It makes them want to support you and help you get to the next stage. So what we ultimately want to do with this workshop is leverage an understanding of both the hero's journey and why it resonates with people to improve your career prospects in different ways. So let's just use an example of an interview. The way that most people interview is they go, right, I worked at this company as a junior UX designer. In that role, I built some basic design systems. I learned how to design for Android. Then I went to my second job. I did the same stuff, but I did a bit more wireframing and I worked with different stakeholders. And then in my last role, I did a bit of the same, but this time I was working more with the product manager and I did some user testing. Right? You switch off. It's on the CV, seen it, they've ticked the boxes about what you do. Think instead if we take exactly the same experience, right? The same 3 jobs. So what are we looking at? Junior UX, maybe senior UX designer, but we switch it up. So we say, you know, I started out as a UX designer. I didn't really know what I was doing. I had a really pushy boss. So I spent my evenings learning, trying to improve, trying to get out of this role that I felt was a bit of a dead end. Then company 2, right? Through that hard work, I got an interview with this really great company. I realized that design wasn't just about doing visual design. It was much more about understanding the customer, understanding the business. So I did some courses. I was really proactive. I, went to the coffee shop down the road to run user tests to make sure that we were building the right thing, and then sharing those learnings with the rest of the company. And finally, I got scouted for this great job because, look at all these achievements I did in my last role. And, now I'm continuing on that journey to becoming this, the best designer I can possibly be. That's why I'm applying to this company, because I feel like you're going to help me make that next step and I can really add value to your organization. So see the difference, right? Obviously my tone is more engaging, more energetic, but you're helping the person understand your story, like who you are at your core and where you're hoping to go. And you're inviting them in, right? You're inviting them to say like, wow, I really want to help this person get to the next step. So I want to give them the job. I want to give them, this opportunity to step up. How do we structure this? So what we're hitting upon when we are trying to craft our hero's journey is we start with our backstory, right? So what is our backstory? How can we give the listener a bit of a vested interest in our journey? 2, desire. So what is it you want to accomplish? Right? What internal and external struggles might be, holding you back? What other obstacles might be lying in your path? The epiphany. So what was that moment that you experienced that changed your thinking or helped you take that step? The plan. So what was the plan you created to achieve your desire? And finally, the achievement transformation. So achievement, what was the end result of this? Like, where are you at currently? What specific things did you achieve? And the transformations, what transformation did you experience along that path? How did you become a better person, for example? How do you become a happier person? These kinds of things. This script, by the way, when we come to the actually doing these ourselves, I've posted this on Slack on the thread for the workshop. So we'll come to those at the end. Don't need to worry about writing notes or anything. So I'm going to give you an example of how I would pitch myself for selling for example, the Prod MBA program. Right? So throughout this, try and see where I'm hitting upon these different steps. So I'm going to read out. So starting with the backstory, right? So I came up with the idea for my first business back in 2012 whilst on a solo trip canoeing down the Amazon River. I thought my idea was the best idea ever. Like, log your journey on an interactive map and share your experiences with other backpackers as you go. What could go wrong? When I went back to London and built a team and started that business, right, leading our product team, and ultimately spending a load of money in a whole year working towards a big product launch, guess what happened when we launched? Right? Nobody downloaded the app. Desire here. We had no idea what we were doing, but were driven on by an arrogant, unshakable belief in what I wanted us to build. We worked 16-hour days, launching feature after feature in the hope that more features would equate to a better product. Right? Unfortunately, 2 years later, we failed. And in the aftermath, as I overcame that loss and sort of looking for a new sense of purpose, I found myself asking, why do some products succeed and others fail? And it struck me that without an effective process to determine whether we are building the right thing, right, without measuring what we build and what the impact is, we can never know whether we are ultimately heading in the right direction. And after doing some research on this topic, one fact radically changed my belief in how products should be built. Right? That 50 to 70% of our ideas will have zero or a negative impact on your key metrics, according to one study by Microsoft, meaning that if we do not know the impact of each feature we launch, we have no idea whether our work is having a positive impact. And there's a high chance it's not. And that if we're not learning from each feature we launch, we will just be stuck in this endless cycle of launching features that have little or no impact on our business goals. And when I stopped to see what other product teams were doing around me, I realized almost all of them were stuck in the same cycle. All other product managers were stuck in the same cycle. And that's when I decided to do something to change that. And for the last 6 years, I've really dedicated my life to understanding what makes great products work, and more specifically, what makes a great product manager. During that journey, I've studied and put into practice everything related to product building, working as a consultant, earning up to 100K per year as an independent consultant and freelancer, and publishing a book last year on this topic. I'm now running my own business, Product Mastery, to give back to help product managers and product owners like you accelerate your product career and learn how to build world-class products. That journey has been a long one, and one that will continue for the rest of my professional life, but it is a real pleasure to now pass on these learnings and these experiences to you in this tailor-made program, so you can have the guidance and support that back in 2012 I so sorely needed. Cut. So hopefully you can see, like, we're hitting upon those points there, rather than just saying, I've worked in product for 8 years. Here's a few things that I learned, and buy the product. We are getting you to buy into this journey and sort of really believe in the journey and get behind that. Right? So it's a very important science, right, of how we approach this. Do we have any questions so far on this? All good? Thumbs up? Excellent. Okay, cool. You're going to have a chance as well. If you want to run anything by me, I'll be on the Zoom call.
Is that just a situation? Where would you use it? Like in an elevator pitch? Is it at when you're in the interview?
Sure. So for this, in this specific script, what I would probably be doing with it is filtering out. So before, remember we did an application process, like that application call. What I'll be doing is filtering out people even before the sales call by making them watch a video where I'm sort of overviewing the product, introduction to myself as well, to ultimately save time in dealing with poor lead, like wasting half an hour on a call. I would also use this. I've used this kind of thing if I'm, say, doing a talk, so introduction. Ultimately, what you're trying to do is who is the audience? What's the point you want them to take away? So in this case, is basically like a lot of people are approaching product wrong, not doing any discovery, just focusing on delivery, and you want to be conveying whatever that point is using this framework. As I said, the example before is how you would use it in an interview is ultimately, again, like, I'm on this journey, this is where I'm going, and you are the next step to help me get there. Cool. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to set a 10-minute timer when I stop this presentation. So in 1 minute. What we're going to be doing is I want you to first just identify, like, who do you want to target here? So you can apply this for your business. You can apply this for an interview script as well, right? So say, for example, you sit down for the interview, someone goes, tell me a little bit about yourself. Bang, here's your story. Here's your hero's journey. So you have two options there. Secondly, we're then going to do 10 minutes in silence, crafting your hero's journey. What we're then going to do is split off into groups of 3. And we're simply going to pitch the hero's journey. How that looks like, I'm going to stop screen sharing. What does that look like? That can either be simply 1 sentence per point. So backstory, first business back in 2012, desire, blah, blah, blah. If you want, you can just use a couple of bullet points as a framework and try and practice your full pitch. Completely up to you. What we want from the other 2 watching is just good feedback on what was compelling, why, did they understand what the core point of what you were trying to convey was. Right? Everybody clear on that before we jump in? If anyone's super lost, and no worries if you need to shoot off. Okay, so I won't put you in a room. I'm going to record the session.
Can you share the steps of the hero journey again?
Yeah. So sorry, it's on Slack on the workshop. Let's see. Actually, we've got 40 minutes. So why don't we stay as a group? Because then I think it'd be great for people that haven't been able to attend to watch the replay. If we split into rooms, we won't get that recording. Let's try that, and we give each other 5 minutes each. So what we're going to do, no, I'm going to split into 2 groups. Just, I think too many people on the call. So if you go onto Slack, my post about the reminder, so Hero's Journey Workshop, on the thread, there is the Hero's Journey script. I'm also going to post this on the chat right here, so you can use it as well. Everybody clear on this? So we're going to have 10-minute timer, and then we're going to split into 2 groups. Awesome. Okay, so 10-minute timer is going to start now. If you've got any questions, just post on the chat. Throughout this 10 minutes, I'll be keeping an eye and helping you out if you need to. You can also just, actually, no, sorry. If you want, either post in the chat or just speak. And I will.
It was, what was it, 3 steps? It was present, pitch, the second one was write, and the first one?
Sorry, yeah. So select your audience. So is this, for example, for an interviewer or your business? 2, just write some bullet points for each of these questions. And then 3, we're going to split into groups and just pitch, 2-minute pitch, and then short round of feedback per person. Right, 10-minute timer is starting now. Put some background music on as well.
Henry, I need to jump off in a few minutes, so I'll do this task separately, but I still wanted to just see like the intro and the
Post on Slack,
get the knowledge from it.
I will give you feedback.
Cheers.
7 minutes. Hi, Janet. I'll write the exercise we're doing on the chat to you.
Okay, thanks. Sorry.
No, good. No worries. Uh, 4 minutes left. If anyone finishes early, just send to me and I can give you some quick feedback. Right.
Oh, damn, Henry, I just scribbled it on my iPad.
Sorry?
I just scribbled some notes on my iPad. Do you want me
Yeah,
to
that's
type
fine.
in?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Just a couple of bullet points is fine. Just talking points, really.
Yeah, great. Is this based on Joseph Campbell, you know, The Hero's Journey? Is that, have you read the book or?
Yes, I think he's the sort of theoretician behind this, or the one that sort of brought it to light.
Yeah, it's all that Star Wars, all the Hollywood.
Yeah, that's it. Star Wars.
Yeah.
I've got a series I keep meaning to watch about like Greek mythology and where it is like in that present.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see the fingerprints on Star Wars and any Hollywood movie now.
Yeah, Star Wars is a good one. Just 2 minutes left. As there are 2 minutes left, just make sure you cover each point. Doesn't need to be perfect, not going to be perfect. Just have a point for each question that we can cover. Actually, Raf, if you're quite if you're sort of used to this framework, would you mind running the other group for this?
No, not at all. No.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to, I'll go last?
Go first. Actually, is a good example.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so format is going to be a 2-minute pitch, timed.
Okay, 2 minutes.
And 2 to 3 minutes feedback. So absolute cap at 5 minutes.
Right.
That we wrap up at 7. Sorry, in half an hour. So try to nudge people if they're taking a long time to make their point.
Yeah.
Nice. Someone who just dropped off. I thought we had a perfect 10.
Oh, Coasat, can we have a call tomorrow? Are you around? On mute.
Last 10 seconds. Time. So again, don't worry, it's not going to be perfect at all. That's why we're going to get feedback on it. The goal, so what we're going to do, if you listened in them, we are going to do 2-minute pitches, timed. One group's going to be timed by Raf, the other one by myself. We're going to then give 2 to 3 minutes for feedback. Let's keep it really concise. If you're going to give feedback, make 1 point, make it really concise. So we then wrap up in 25 minutes. Raf, when your guys are done, just come back into the main room.
Okay.
And we can just wrap up at the end. Because I think really important to remember, this is a very powerful script. This is honestly really, really helpful. What we want to do is test out first version, going to be really rough and not rough and ready, get feedback. And then what I want to do afterwards is iterate that. And then we can post on Slack for feedback. So you can really have this ready to use whenever you interview, for example. Okay, cool. I'm going to randomly create 2 groups with Raf. Sorry, no, I need to put Raf ahead of 1. Okay, breakout room 1. I'm going to put first 5 people that come to mind. Raf, Richard, Nick, Kozawat. Yep, you 4. All right, go for it. Then in the other room, I'm going to put, I don't know if it's, there are 9 of us, yeah. So, sorry, I'm going to join your room. Okay, Shanna, I will put with you guys. Okay, great. So 5. Great. So we're going to get into breakout rooms. Raf, be strict with time, and then we're going to come back together in the last couple of minutes.
Great, thank you.
All right, perfect. Speak soon. Cool, we're all in. Nice. Cool. Who wants to get started? Volunteer? Felix, go for it. Right, so remember 2 minutes. I'll show you I'll give you a signal when we hit 1 and then 30 seconds as well.
I haven't, can you hear me?
Yep.
So I've done this for my jiu-jitsu coaching idea, as opposed to my story for a job interview. So I hope I haven't written out the final point yet, but I'll try and freestyle. Okay, so.
Right, so sorry, before we start, in terms of feedback, did you get the core point of it? and how did they hit? How could they improve upon some of these points? Like, could they build empathy better with the backstory, for example? These kinds of things. Right. So after Felix's pitch, we're just going to go around and do 1 point per person. If you don't have an opinion, completely fine. But I think always useful. Like, anything is useful. Maybe the tone, like how something's pitched. So any point is useful. Ready? 2 minutes starting now.
In 2014, I was in Portugal waiting to fight in the semi-final of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu European Championship. I was a nervous wreck, and I lost to a competitor I had previously beaten in a smaller tournament. Since then, mental performance and mindfulness has become a fascination for me. It was shortly after this tournament I began my meditation journey and discovered mindfulness as a tool for good. I noticed that whenever I took the time out to give my mind a break, I would perform better in whatever task was ahead of me that day, whether this was with work, relationships, or physical activity. The meditation, I realized, was like training for the mind. I began talking to other jiu-jitsu competitors to understand what their biggest challenges were in relation to competition, and mental performance was consistently the top issue. I began to research and absorb as much material on mental performance, mindfulness, and psychology in sport I could find. I then met my business partner, a passionate psychologist and avid yoga practitioner who has a strong interest in mindfulness herself. Now we spend our time working with top jiu-jitsu athletes, and I'm making this up now, and passionate hobbyists to help with their mental performance on and off the mats. The end.
Yeah, that's really good. Really good. Feedback. Who wants to go first? Daniel. Bosnian.
I lost you at I lost you at tournament.
All good. No worries, no worries. Ayo, do you want to give some feedback?
I think it definitely hit the point in terms of what the problem was. If I were a jiu-jitsu person, I would definitely connect with your problem. I'm not quite sure I understand that problem area, to be honest. But it did connect with me. It resonated. And I think maybe the only thing I would say is it felt a bit recited, maybe because you were reading from a book, but that was the only thing I would say.
I'd just written it down in a Word document, yeah.
No, that's fine. It'll come with practice. I mean, one thing I've done before actually with interviews is you literally, particularly video conferences, have it up in notes on the side. So it's really, practice it twice. Nobody knows you're reading off the script. I mean, I'm being lazy today, so I'm reading it off paper. Yeah,
it's funny. When I was reading it back, an issue that occurred to me was I don't actually know. I was like, I couldn't quite figure out what tone I was supposed to be taking. I was like, I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be like an audio book or I was actually pitching to people. And because can't see you because I'm reading from my Word document and set it up properly, I think it threw me off the kind of performance I was supposed to be giving.
Yeah, it's building trust in it.
I need to correct my feedback. I was joking at the beginning, but what I thought when I was listening, it's great that you came to realization that what's missing, and then you pursue it, and then you chased it, and then you realize how you can use it better and better, like mindfulness and stuff, and it helped you, and then maybe you can share it with everyone and stuff. But what I didn't, like is that kind of, it was a plain, it was just one tone, So there was no excitement, there was no, hey, then I realized it was like hurting me like this or that, like some struggle that you see.
Yeah, it's practice. Do it a couple of times and you'll be good at that. Okay, cool. Daniele, any feedback?
Nothing much. Just the tone of voice, I think, is the if you give a bit to, with a struggle you slow down, and when things get exciting you speed up or try to accelerate some of that sentences that allows people to actually get motivated and listen.
Thank you.
I think it's a good point. Okay, so quick 5 points from me, and then I'll give you a next step for this. So backstory, I really like nervous wreck, like really painting that picture. You did a really good job at the beginning. I think you missed a trick where talking about the desire, because I mean, you just, if you don't know, like Felix, like British champion or something, jiu-jitsu. It's like mentioning the fact that like you achieved something like pretty big. So like you used to struggle and then you became this like badass champion. So I think you missed a trick there. And then, yeah, I love the bringing in of data, like speaking to other people, mental performance, really good. So next step I'd say is practice the script twice, record yourself on Loom, and just iterate. I think the core is there. It's just practice, basically.
Okay.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Who is up next? So Daniel for cracking jokes. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, why not? Can you hear me well?
Yeah, right. Timer.
Okay. So mine is basically combination business interview. I'm not sure what can it be. So let's start. So
take a breath, and then start.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
2 minutes, starting now.
Okay, so here I am fresh out of university with little to none experience, buying a ticket to go to Netherlands to find a job. So after an internship, after a couple of weeks, internship presented itself, opportunity presented itself, but not in Netherlands, in Malta. So I'm now buying again a ticket, moving to Malta, and next thing you know, I'm standing in front of the owner of the company, and basically he's kind of interviewing me over a beer, and then he's basically scanning me. So I'm trying to, get this job. So in the end, I got it, but long story short, I'm running late to an interview in a main telecom in Malta because I wanted to pursue my engineering. As I'm a telecommunication engineer, I wanted to pursue this goal, and I'm ending paying last 20 euros I had to a taxi driver to get to the interview. So in the end, I made it. So I stayed there for 2 years. But I realized that as I was working closely to IT sector and management stuff, I realized that my communication skills and understanding people is a bit on a higher level than what I saw. Mm-hmm. So, and as much Malta was so cool and relaxed, okay. I ended up going to Germany because Malta was bringing me down. So I needed more like power. And then I came here, and again, pursuing my goal with C-level people, I realized that I need to do something on my own. I had this like hunger in me. So here I am standing in front of you, trying to help you in having my own business, trying to help you achieve your goals. That's short version. I have more written, but
no, all good, no worries. Felix, do you want to go? So 2 minutes for feedback. Sorry, from all of us.
It's very good, Daniel. I think there was maybe with you had like the thing about the taxi. I loved giving you the last $20 to get to an interview, but the lead up to that I felt was a bit. It felt like you were giving us. It felt like you didn't value the piece of information that you were giving us in the story. So like the bits before that, it was like, oh, this is going to be a hurdle. This is going to be something meaty that helps us get to know Daniel. But then you're like, actually, that doesn't matter. Then we'll move on to the next bit. Long story short.
Time pressure.
It's important that you value the things that you're saying and the bits of the story that you're giving, so that we value them as the listener. So that's mine.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in just to follow on from that with point. First thing, too fast. It was really rush. And basically, immediately you put us on alert. So I'm like, oh my God, it puts us in this fast mode as well. Second thing, this is something that I've really tried to take on board the last few years, is ultimately what are people going to remember about you is the story you start with. So it was only like when you started talking about C-level in Germany that I went back and I was like, oh, I sort of got the taxi thing now. And it's like, it sounds like a good story, but it was rushed. And as Felix said, I think because you're worried about, you want to show your credentials, but ultimately people are going to remember you for this good story you started with, particularly as, first impressions are made within like 5 to 7 seconds or something. So if you go bang quickly in with that story, practice telling it really well, then you're halfway there, really.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'd be super interested. Like if you actually wrote that out and we talked about it again, we tried to approach this with more time. I bet we could create a great story.
Yeah.
I have written more, and there is connection between these two, in the end. But I kind of compressed it in this time frame.
That's fine. Sorry. My final point, and then get feedback from the other two was. Yeah, and I think that because it was a bit rushed and confused, I sort of just missed the connection with like C-level and goal and moving to Germany. So I think just practicing it and just also cutting down, cut down on how much you're saying just to the core things. Again, people are not going to remember much. So just hit a few key points and you'll find. Any feedback from you guys, Ayo, Daniele?
I think for me, so the beginning, it sounded really very compelling. And I was quite interested in the many air flight tickets that you had to buy. And then I sort of got lost in translation in the middle, wondering, okay, what was the problem? I still don't get it, to be honest. But the beginning was very compelling. It sounded really interesting. And I think like everybody else said, it felt like there was a big problem there, but I didn't quite get it.
Yeah. So next step, sorry, Daniele, you go, and then I'll suggest the next step for you guys.
Yeah, just a bit to reiterate what has been said already. I think it was the initial part when you were starting to develop the story was okay. It was probably taking a lot of time, but then I think you realized that probably your time was getting shorter and shorter. So actually, you rushed it through the whole.
Exactly.
And then I got lost as well. Like Henry said that
I got lost.
So I'm going to suggest next steps is you pair up with Felix for accountability. Both of you practice this twice. You video record it, send it to each other for feedback, and then do another iteration.
Okay.
Really, particularly as you're using this for your business, it's really important to get it right. Cool. Let's go, Daniele. Do you want to go?
Sure. Okay, so I'm
all ready.
Okay. I'm targeting interviewers to grab a new job.
Cool.
Cool. So my background is as a developer, but I always had this wish to influence the business and try to see other ways of actually I could improve and give value back to the business. But I really had issues with getting traction or getting listened to by the stakeholders. I remember I had a very good intuition at the time. Not all of them are this good, but when the iPhone came out, I suggested to my company that we should probably develop apps for that, for the phone, because it would probably be very good. Unfortunately, I didn't get anyone to listen to me. When I moved to a new company, I started to see that there was this new methodology of developing software. It was called Agile. Well, it was new to me. I was going to new. And I started to see how actually the role of the developer and the product owner and anyone else actually fit into this thing. So I started to bring concept of Agile into the team, and the team started to developing better software with more better delivery. And the business started to notice me and say, maybe this person has potential. And that's when I became a product owner, and I finally joined the product. Since then, I've been able to influence, be part of still the product team because I understand what they wanted to do, give suggestion of how to approach it. At the same time, go back to the stakeholders and say why we're doing this, why we're doing this way, what's the best solution, because I can actually talk to both of them at the same time.
Perfect timing as well. 2 seconds left. Ayo, do you want to go first? Feedback?
I completely get the frustration. I think even for me, my initial role was as a business analyst, and I get you knowing or having an idea of what you think the problem is, but then nobody really listens to you because you don't have that power of influence. So if I was sat across the table from you, that will be you telling my story to me, and you've got me hook, line, and sinker. I think your delivery was excellent. It was very well paced. You sounded very assured. And then because I'm your target market, I'm your niche. Yeah, you got me.
Yeah, power. This is a power of, you can also call this an empathy bridge script, because what you're doing is building a bridge so the other person they get it. They just get it. Right. So, really great example of that. Daniel, feedback?
Yeah, I agree with Tayo, like really well done, and I can see experience behind it. And also I like this part about the iPhone apps, and that how you try to bring it, and it's like that actually you remember things that you were trying to be catalyst for something, but it didn't, and then you transform yourself in order to have more power in the end. So very good.
Felix?
I was going to mention the thing about the bit of information about developing iPhone apps as well, because I thought that was really clever, because it was a hurdle that you had, but it was also a suggestion that you'd had an idea that we all know was a very lucrative business sector that emerged after the iPhone came out, so that you were actually ahead of the curve. So it was kind of a problem, but suggested that you were a bit of a prophet at the same time.
I've got 4 quick points. So I think you went straight into a very clear goal. So the whole conversation was framed crystal clear from the beginning. Great, completely fine. You could do that and then come in with a backstory to sort of build a bit more empathy, but you hit all of the points really, really well. Phone story, I think it was genius actually, because you're showing, rather than this fluff of like, I'm an ideas person, just bang, showcase of like, here's a thing that I saw, and everyone knows what happened next with it. So I thought that was excellent. The plan as well, crystal clear. I think achievement, you could do stronger. I think you could definitely, that's the only thing I would improve. How do you wrap that up? Like, where are you at now? What have you achieved? What's the next step for you on this journey to sort of bringing agile to organizations? So I think if you literally just hit 1-2 lines at the end on that, it's a really, really good thing. I think only then is build a bit more personal empathy, like with you as Daniele, like who are, a bit of a backstory, but you could drop that in anywhere. You could also just have that in your pocket for any other question that comes up later on in the interview, for example. But yeah, excellent, A star. Cool. Who have we got left?
Thank you.
Aya's the only one left, isn't it?
Yes.
Right. So deep breath, and then I'm going to start the timer. Ready?
Yep.
2 minutes starting now.
So I left the university in Lagos with a degree in philosophy. I had ideas I admired people who seemed to be going to work every day wearing a power suit in the high inch heels, but I couldn't seem to figure out exactly what I would do with a degree in philosophy. So I tried working for a bank. They put me in marketing, and I had to go around asking people for money to open accounts in a bank. That was not my money. And it was absolutely miserable. I ended up going back to school for a master's, and through a series of stumbling around doing jobs that I was not happy doing, I was very, very frustrated. Eventually, I had a conversation with a friend, and she introduced me into the product management side of business. And I started with a course, tried to get a mentor, didn't get one. But sort of like clawing my way through, I finally figured out what I was sort of made for, what I enjoyed doing. Now, looking back at that sort of trajectory and how I've gotten here, it's been through a lot of pain, tears, confusion, worry, and just a whole lot of dissatisfaction through that route. And if I could help somebody else's journey be a lot more clearer, looking back now, I think hindsight is 2020. I think having a guide or a mentor of some sort to help me with that journey would have been amazing. And I think that's the value I would add to your life, to help you plan your journey, help you plan your career, understand what your strengths are and what you're best suited for.
Perfect. Really nice. Cool. Feedback. Felix, do you want to go first?
Okay. I thought it got off to a really good start. The one thing that stood out for me that I didn't think you pinpointed was the epiphany, which was like you mentioned that I wish I'd had this. There's someone to help guide me from back then when I was in this place, but you didn't. I don't think there was a clear point when you said I noticed or I saw that this was a problem that other people have, and that this is something that I can then help with. And then it felt like it was missing a bit of the plan after that as well on what you were going to do next. But there was definitely the kind of the backstory, the desire, the issue, like all the empathy was there that you mentioned before. What did you call it again? An empathy something story.
Empathy bridge.
An empathy bridge. That was all there. I think it was just the meat after that, which I felt like maybe that you didn't get to that part. But,
so I'm just going to follow on
the
point
exercise,
because I think it's super important, because I know obviously what you're working on at the moment. You skipped so one thing I thought you did really well is like hammer those emotions, like miserable, all great. You're hammering points home, which are going to resonate strong. You missed actually a really good opportunity, because I think ultimately, like if you're pitching to Nigerian graduates as a product owner in London, like in their eyes, you may not think this, but you've ultimately like made it. So I think you, particularly coming from like philosophy background now, working sort of product. So I think you really missed the trick there, and I think you could big yourself up better ultimately. But yeah, I thought the intro was actually really good. Like really, as I said, just painting this like bleak picture, and you missed the like, how did that transformation happen?
Okay.
And then at the end, I would just practice as you're transitioning into like pitching to them, right? This achievement and how you want to help them. Just practice that. I think really write it out, practice it so it's delivered really clearly. You're switching from this sort of like fun storytelling to then, here's my message for you. So I think if you practice that switch and what you're going to say after, then it's a powerful, powerful script.
Cool.
Nice. Any other feedback from you guys?
I was taken with the all the pain. It's a very you went very deep into that, and partly it really resonates with me because like probably most of us, as soon as I got out of the university, no idea what they're going to do, and I think that was great. I would have liked to see a bit to know a bit more on how your achievement in getting out now on the other side, where basically you kind of know where you want to where you are and where you're heading, and then use that to help other.
Okay.
Daniel?
The beginning I was good, like you resonate with someone that you actually went through some struggles, but I have a feeling that you kind of generalize too much: epiphany, plan, and achievement. So you kind of combine it, and it was too little. So there was no emphasis on this, which I think it would be good to, like point this as well. But then you had this good point that you, because of your struggles and stuff, you have this urge to help someone, not to go through these struggles. And that kind of bought me,
Yeah. So I would say just specific next steps. I think paint an even bleaker picture at the beginning. I think you're really going to hook people in. Really good already, but I think you can really hammer that home. Second thing, what was the transformation? I think again, don't play yourself down. Ultimately, then 3, that pitch has to be really strong. Like, why you? Why should they listen to you? Like, why are you particularly because it's a mentoring relation. Like, why are you the right person to listen to?
Okay.
If you hit those, then I think the meat of it is there. So I think just hit those later points, and I think then it's a really, really good script. Cool. That was really interesting. Actually, it's cool to see.
Yeah, no, I think it was a great exercise. I think one thing to be mindful of is the fact that everybody did that in 10 minutes, and that you could obviously be improved with a bit more effort, a bit more time, and a bit more structuring.
100%.
But one thing I just noticed looking back at what I'd written out was the kind of the thing I liked about the most about it was the structuring. Like, you have these different things, and when I look back at the phrases that I used to start each different section when I was writing them out, like backstory back in 2014 when I was, and then after desire, since then, mental performance, blah, blah, blah. Then after epiphany, I noticed, like, if you actually plan it around how you would start each sentence, and you had like a structure, like after the plan, then I began. Like, it's like, if you think of it actually like as almost like a children's story, and like you frame it in that kind of respect, I think that will help you to organize things and put them in place more. But I mean, I was just thinking that.
No, but I've literally used that format. So interviews in the past, I will literally have the 7, so literally word for word, backstory, and then just the phrase, like back in 2012 is where that triggers my first business story. Yeah. You have those 6 words, quick trigger, first few words, and then that's going to remind you of what to say. Literally have that up, as you practice it a few times, and this is a really powerful way to start any conversation, really. Yeah,
you know what, I realized that it's not actually, it was because of listening to you go first, Henry. It definitely, I think I've used half of the phrases that you use, because and subconsciously I'd just taken them on board, and I was like, right, now I'm going to do what Henry just did, and it makes perfect sense. Yeah. No, I think that's good advice. There, it's just you're answering the questions in that list. Ultimately, yeah, it's like if you're planning out a book. I mean, it's the same. They say to do the same things. If you write the kind of, if you know you've got to have 6 chapters, you know that the function of them is this. But then if you write out the kind of setup for each one, like the first paragraph, it actually helps you to fill in the blanks. You know. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, we've got to wrap up because the others have just joined the main call. But yeah, really good. So next steps. Let's do it when we're in the main room, actually. I'll define. How did that session go for you guys? Helpful?
Yes, definitely.
Good. Definitely. We had a fun session there.
Yeah, that was really good. I think it's hard to do that transformational bit, you know, the turning point for the hero.
Also, you always feel, I mean, it always feels a bit self-aggrandizing. You know, you feel like you're bigging yourself up too much. But
or vulnerability, or showing vulnerability.
Yeah.
Because as you know, the hero fails sometimes. You know, he's failing as a person, and he has to discover. It's like Luke Skywalker fails, and then he has to come back. You know?
Yeah. Anyway, so for my guys, the next steps, as we said, Daniel and Felix, practice your scripts twice, record it, send it to, just post on random, and tag me and the other person, so Felix and Daniel, to review. Io, I think you just need to cover those. So hammer the emotions home in the beginning, hit that transformation, really big yourself up. Sorry, don't underplay yourself. And then, why are you the right person for your niche? And then, if you want to do a recording as well on Loom and post, I'll give feedback. I'm sure other people will. Daniele are just really good, I think, most of the way through. Daniel, take a breath. Take more of a breath next time. And I think improve that story, and you're going to hook people in.
The emotional thing, I think, is really key. I think with Jana, I said, you know, she's a mom. So bring that really into that, you know, because she was saying that I like to build teams and create environments where people, you know, feel.
Well, you're working with people ultimately. So you want to build good human relationships. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I think if anyone wants, just practice it a couple of times, post a recording on random, tag anyone that was in your working group for feedback as well. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the call tomorrow. Cheers, guys. Have a good evening. Enjoy.
Cheers.